You're listening to the CultFroggy podcast.
CultFroggy, jumping through the lies, peeling back the layers, opening your eyes. From the preacher's pulpit to the boardroom floor, cults are everywhere, can't ignore them no
more. Welcome, little hoppers, to CultFroggy. I'm Edward Michael Francis, but today I'm handing things over to our AI workforce for a special bonus episode. Think of this as us putting the robots to work to bring you even bigger and better content between regular episodes. Every single word is based on articles written by me, Edward Michael Francis. All editorial decisions are completely human, and all claims have been fact-checked to the best of our ability. At CultFroggy, we say cults are everywhere. And it's true. They hide in plain sight and take more shapes than the stereotypical hidden compound and matching sneakers variety. And it's a Cinemarch media production, so you know it's going to be leftist, queer, Marxist, and earnest to the point of drawing blood. You'll laugh, you'll cry, you'll deconstruct. And as always, we're joined in studio by CultFroggy herself. CultFroggy has seen some crazy but she's too busy sunning herself on her lily pad to worry about technological gatekeeping. She understands that AI is a tool, and tools in the right hands, or the right amphibian, have a way of changing everything. We hope you take a moment to let us know how you feel about this great experiment in the comments. And now, without further ado, on with the show. Cue the sting. Breaking news, Cinemarch is selling out.
That's right, folks, and you've been begging us for merch, so here it is.
The Cinemarch Media Shop is officially open. Propaganda-style designs, revolutionary messaging, Myron the cat being adorable and menacing.
Plus that unpaid labor tee for all you drum corps kids who know the deal.
And don't forget CultFroggy, she's there too.
You can check it out at cinemarchmedia.com. Support the work, look good doing it.
Wear it loud, piss off a boomer.
Visit cinemarchmedia.com today.
Welcome to CultFroggy. Cults are everywhere.
They really are.
And imagine waking up on a hardwood gym floor. You've slept maybe, 4 hours.
If you're lucky.
Right, if you're lucky. Your muscles are screaming, your skin is blistering, and you are just severely dehydrated.
Oh, absolutely.
And then picture this. A man twice your age is standing over you, just screaming in your face, telling you that if you don't achieve absolute, inhuman perfection in the next 12 hours of 100-degree heat, you are fundamentally worthless.
It's terrifying.
It is. But here's the thing for you listening right now. You aren't in some fringe religious compound hidden deep in the wilderness.
Yeah, not at all.
You don't have a charismatic leader claiming to speak to an alien deity or something.
Right.
In fact, you actually paid thousands of dollars to be exactly where you are right now, because you are standing on a high school football stadium turf and you're participating in a youth marching band.
It's just, it's a complete recalibration of where we expect to find systemic, calculated abuse, and undue influence.
Yeah, exactly.
Like when we talk about high demand groups, I think the public imagination instantly defaults to robes and Kool-Aid.
The classic stereotypes.
Exactly. But what we're looking at today really requires us to step entirely out of the fringe and honestly walk right onto the 50-yard line of Americana.
That's a perfect way to put it.
Because we are looking at a system where the charismatic leader is holding a metronome instead of a holy text.
And the matching outfits, they're just incredibly tailored, highly expensive uniforms.
Right. And that is exactly why we are acting as your guides today for a very special report.
An absolute expose.
Yes, an expose for CultFroggy. Because this isn't just an exploration of an interesting topic, This is a vital consumer warning to the public.
It really is.
If you are a parent, a fan, an alumni of the marching arts, or honestly, just someone fascinated by how organizational psychology can be weaponized in plain sight, you need to hear every single word of this.
You really do. But before we dive in, we need to explicitly state right at the top that the foundation of this comprehensive report was created by Edward Michael Francis.
Whose pronouns are they, them?
Yes, exactly. And we want to give a massive, massive shout out to Cinemarch Media for their incredible work in compiling these materials.
Oh, the sheer volume of documentation they've gathered is staggering.
It's unbelievable. I mean, we are examining a mountain of sources today.
Yeah, we have internal organization documents, right?
We do. And rigorous investigative journalism from outlets like the Philadelphia Inquirer, plus whistleblower petitions and these just harrowing firsthand accounts from Reddit threads.
And we're looking at all of this through established, peer-reviewed academic frameworks.
Right. And all of it, every single thread we pulled points to one terrifying conclusion.
Which is just wild to think about.
It is. We are looking at a massive multi-million-dollar youth performance activity known as Drum Corps International, or DCI, and realizing that it is operating as a high-control environment masking decades of systemic abuse.
It's a textbook case of an organization hiding in plain sight.
Seriously.
What is so fascinating and, well, chilling, really, about this particular ecosystem is how the public-facing image completely shields the internal reality.
Oh, completely. Because on the outside, what does the public see? They see incredible discipline.
Breathtaking performances.
Right. Elite-level musical and visual shows. They see what looks to like the untrained eye, like the absolute peak of youth development and character building.
But then you take established psychological frameworks for identifying cults, and you apply them to the internal culture of a drum corps summer tour.
And that pristine veneer just violently strips away.
Exactly. And what you're left with is the rigid architecture of a totalist system.
So let's unpack that architecture, because I think the first hurdle for anyone listening to this is just the semantic shock of it, right?
Oh, absolutely. The word cult throws people off.
It really does. Like, is a drum and bugle corps actually a cult?
Well, to answer that, we're leaning heavily on Edward Michael Francis's paper, which is literally titled, Drum and Bugle Corps is a Cult.
Right to the point.
Very direct.
Yeah.
And Francis brings in the absolute heavy hitters of psychological analysis here, people like Robert J. Lifton, Stephen Hassan, and Margaret Singer.
The pioneers.
Right. These are the folks who spent their lives understanding exactly how high-demand groups operate. And the foundational concept we need to understand before we even look at the marching field is thought reform.
Right. And we need to be very clear about what thought reform actually is.
Yeah.
Because it's not the cartoonish brainwashing you see in Hollywood movies, you know, where someone swings a pocket watch and a person becomes a zombie.
Exactly. It's not magic.
Yeah.
Thought reform is a highly systematic, deeply orchestrated process.
It's methodical.
Very. It's designed to slowly, methodically suppress an individual's authentic, pre-existing identity.
Like their boundaries and critical thinking.
Right, and their sense of self-preservation.
Yeah.
And it replaces all of that with an artificial, group-aligned persona.
So it's essentially installing a new operating system in a human being.
That is a perfect way to look at it. It's
Yeah.
about creating a psychological state where the organization's doctrine, its goals, and its survival completely supersedes the individual's well-being.
Their biological needs, their humanity, everything.
Yes. And to understand how this machinery operates in drum corps, Francis maps the reality of a DCI summer tour directly onto Robert J. Lifton's established criteria for thought reform.
And when you look at the mapping, the parallels aren't just similar, they are exact.
It's eerie.
It really is. Okay, so let's walk through Lifton's criteria, because seeing how seamlessly they fit over a youth band tour is deeply unsettling.
Yeah, let's start with the first one.
Right. The first criterion Lifton talks about is milieu control, which, in plain English, just means absolute control over the environment and the flow of information.
Right.
And Francis points out that a drum corps summer tour is the ultimate closed ecosystem. I mean, think about the logistics.
That's intense.
You have young people, many of them legally minors, by the way, spending literally months entirely isolated.
Living on moving tour buses.
Yeah, sleeping shoulder to shoulder on high school gym floors across the entire country. They're completely cut off from mainstream society.
Cut off from their parents.
Exactly, from their non-core friends and their normal, healthy support structures.
And we really have to ask why that is a requirement for a high-control group. Like, why do they need that isolation?
Right, why is that so necessary?
Well, milieu control is the foundational step of any cult, because you cannot fundamentally reshape an individual's identity if outside influences are constantly contradicting your narrative.
Oh, that makes total sense.
Right, because, like, if a kid is being abused at a normal after-school band practice, they go home at 5 p.m.
They sit at the dinner table.
Exactly. And their parents say, wait, Your teacher said what to you? That's not okay.
And boom, the spell's broken.
The spell is broken. But in drum corps, by monopolizing their physical location and their daily schedule, from the second they wake up to the second they pass out, the core leadership becomes the sole arbiter of reality.
Wow. So the outside world effectively ceases to exist for them?
It really does. The member becomes completely, utterly dependent on the group for information, for emotional validation, and for basic physical survival.
Which perfectly sets the stage for Lifton's next criterion, which is mystical manipulation.
Oh, this one is so insidious.
It is. This is where the group orchestrates experiences that feel spontaneous or even divine to the victim, but they're actually completely manufactured from the top down.
To reinforce the leadership's absolute authority.
Right. Now, obviously, in drum corps, a brass caption head isn't claiming to speak to God.
No.
But they are doing something just as manipulative. They are reframing extreme, agonizing physical suffering as something beautiful.
Yes. The blistering heat, the physical exhaustion, the chronic pain of marching 12 hours a day.
They frame it all as a gateway to a divine or transcendent breakthrough on the rehearsal field.
It is the literal recontextualization of trauma.
Wow, yeah.
They're taking the natural endorphin rush that comes from surviving extreme physical exertion, and they're just hijacking it.
Oh, I see.
The leadership tells these young people, you aren't just marching. You are achieving a higher plane of existence through your suffering.
If you push past your human limits, you'll achieve perfection.
Exactly. And that pursuit of perfection is inextricably linked to Lifton's next concept, which is the demand for purity.
Right, because high control groups, by definition, view the world in absolute black and white terms.
There's no gray area.
At all.
None. In the DCI ecosystem, purity is defined as the unattainable, flawless execution of the performance.
Members are pushed to strive for a standard that is literally impossible for a human being to maintain consistently over a 12-minute show.
Right, because they are carbon-based life forms and not machines.
Exactly. And when they inevitably fail, because they have to, that failure is heavily exploited. And how is that failure exploited exactly?
Well, the exploitation of that failure is the key mechanism here. When a member misses a dot on the field or chips a note on a trumpet, it isn't treated as a simple pedagogical error to be corrected.
It's treated as a moral failing.
Yes. It is used to induce deep, profound shame and guilt. The leadership instills the belief that your mistake didn't just hurt the score.
It betrayed the entire family.
Exactly. It contaminated the purity of the core.
And how is that guilt weaponized? I mean, how do they keep that going?
Through what Lifton calls the cult of confession.
Okay, yes, this is where the psychology gets really, really dark for a youth activity.
It does. Members are essentially forced to publicly divulge their sins or their bad attitudes to the collective.
Right. Anything that deviates from the group's goal is a sin. Feeling tired, sin. Feeling homesick, sin.
Questioning an instructor, massive sin.
And what happens when you create an environment where everyone must confess their impurities? You create a peer-level surveillance state.
That's exactly what happens. Members start automatically self-policing.
They don't even wait for the instructor to yell at them anymore.
No, they punish themselves physically. The sources describe members dropping to the boiling turf to do push-ups or running penalty laps entirely unprompted.
Just for making a visual mistake.
Right. It is an incredibly efficient system of control. The leadership doesn't even have to enforce the rules anymore, because the members have internalized the oppression so deeply that they become their own jailers.
Okay, I have to pause here.
Yeah.
Because I really need to push back on this slightly.
Sure, go for it.
I want to make sure we're addressing what I know you, the listener, are probably thinking right now.
Yeah, what's the counter-argument?
Someone is listening to this in their car, and they're thinking, wait a minute, this just sounds like a really intense, high-pressure sports camp.
Right.
Like, doesn't any elite military unit or an Olympic gymnastics team or a Division I football program use a closed ecosystem?
They absolutely do.
They isolate to focus, they push through incredible pain, they demand perfection, and they use peer pressure. So what actually crosses the line here?
That is the million-dollar question.
What separates intense elite dedication from a literal psychological cult? Because right now it sounds like a pressure cooker, but surely elite performance requires a pressure cooker, right?
It's a vital question, and it is the exact distinction we have to make to understand the pathology of drum corps. You're right, an Olympic training camp is a pressure cooker.
Okay.
But in an Olympic training camp, the release valve exists. In drum corps, The release valve have been intentionally, maliciously welded shut.
Wait, what do you mean by that? Welded shut how?
It comes down to what Robert J. Lifton calls the dispensing of existence.
Okay, explain that.
In a healthy, albeit intense, elite athletic environment, the basic humanity of the athlete is still the foundational baseline.
Right.
The goal is peak performance, absolutely. But if that Olympic athlete sustains a stress fracture, the trainer steps in, they are treated medically.
And their autonomy over their own body remains completely intact.
Exactly. The athlete has informed consent. But in a totalist system, in a cult, humanity becomes conditional.
Conditional humanity. Just let that phrase hang in the air for a second.
It's heavy.
It is incredibly heavy.
And it means exactly what it sounds like. It means your right to exist, your right to basic respect, your right to biological needs like water and sleep. They are no longer inherent human rights.
They are entirely dependent on your complete compliance with the group's doctrine.
Yes. It crosses the line from elite sports into cult when compliance to the authority figure matters more than the actual outcome of the performance.
Oh, wow.
The system takes these kids' genuine love, their dedication, their beautiful passion for music and the marching arts, and it turns that very love into a weapon of disciplinary control.
So you aren't doing those push-ups on the turf to get physically stronger.
No, you are doing push-ups to demonstrate total public submission to the staff.
Wow. Okay, that clarifies it perfectly.
It's a scary distinction, but an important one.
Because once you establish that baseline, once you convince a teenager that their humanity is conditional and that their physical comfort is a moral failure, you can start pushing physical boundaries to shocking extremes.
You've completely bypassed their psychological defenses.
Right. And that realization transitions us directly into what we see next in these documents. Because having absolute control over a person's identity doesn't just happen through psychological manipulation and isolation, does it?
No, it doesn't. To truly rewrite someone's reality, you have to break down their physical body.
The mind and the body are not separate entities.
If you want to control the former, you assault the latter.
Which brings us to section 2 of this report. Because what we see in this expose is the systemic, institutionalized rebranding of absolute, literal brutality as pedagogy.
Or building mental fortitude.
Yeah, right. We are talking about 12-hour rehearsal blocks conducted in the extreme heat and staggering humidity of a deep South summer.
And the academic research provided in our sources explicitly shows that these conditions put these young marching artists at incredibly high risk for severe medical and mental health problems.
We are looking at rampant anxiety, chronic stress, severe physical injuries.
And the rampant development of eating disorders.
Yes. And the sources make one thing abundantly clear. These physical conditions are not just unfortunate accidental side effects of chasing a gold medal.
No, they are intentional methodologies used to break a person down.
Right. And what is the psychological mechanism at play there?
In psychological terms, the mechanism is called unfreezing.
Unfreezing. Okay, tell me about that.
Think of the human identity like a block of ice. Before you can instill a new, compliant groupthink identity, you have to melt down the old one. You have to unfreeze it.
And how do you do that quickly?
Sleep deprivation, extreme physical exhaustion, dietary restriction, caloric deficits.
Those sound like literal torture methods.
They are. These are the fastest, most effective ways to completely bypass an individual's critical thinking faculties. The cognitive tax of exhaustion is profound.
I mean, I can't even think straight if I miss 1 hour of sleep.
Right. So imagine a 15-year-old. When their brain is deprived of REM sleep and their body is physically exhausted to its absolute core, they literally do not have the neurological energy to question authority.
They become highly, highly susceptible to group indoctrination.
Exactly.
So let's look at how this unfreezing manifests in reality. Because I want to look at a specific anecdote from Edward Michael Francis's time with a drum corps called the Bushwhackers.
Oh, this story is wild.
It really is. In the documents, they describe the director of this corps as having, and I quote, real Unabomber energy.
Which is quite a description.
Right. This environment wasn't about the pursuit of musical excellence at all. It was this bizarre, terrifying mix of classic cult love bombing and unhinged psychosis.
And Francis talks about the financial desperation of the organization being so palpable that it resulted in an actual hostage situation.
And you, the listener, need to know that is not a metaphor.
No, it's literal.
It is literal. The Corps desperately needed the members to pay their tour dues, so the administration literally blocked the exit to the rehearsal parking lot with a vehicle.
So that the members physically could not leave the premises.
I mean, that's false imprisonment.
Basically, yeah. And the message being sent to these people was explicit. The financial survival of the organization completely overrides your personal autonomy, your right to leave, and your freedom of movement.
And look at how the psychological pressure was actively applied to the members who were actually dedicated.
Yeah, the spring rehearsal story.
Exactly. Francis recounts this specific spring rehearsal. It's early in the season, right? And many members were missing due to other life obligations, which is totally normal for a weekend camp.
People have jobs, school, whatever.
Right. But the director stood in front of the members who did show up. The people who made the 3.5-hour drive, the ones who were standing at attention on the field, giving up their weekend.
And the director just started aggressively screaming at them, just squawking, "Not acceptable," over and over again.
It's pure absurdity. I was reading that and just shaking my head. It's exactly like a preacher standing at the pulpit on Sunday morning and violently berating the choir because the back pews are empty.
That's a perfect analogy.
You have the people who are actually doing the work right in front of you, and instead of problem-solving the logistical attendance issue, the leadership just vents unchecked, terrifying rage at whoever happens to be within earshot.
Because we have to remember, in a performance cult, it isn't about logic.
Right, logic goes out the window.
It isn't about solving a logistical problem. It is entirely about maintaining dominance through fear and total unpredictability.
Wow.
The goal of screaming at the people who showed up is to establish a core cult tenet, which is that consistency and loyalty do not earn you grace.
So you're never safe.
Never. You are always, always on the edge of the leader's wrath, no matter how hard you try.
And we see in these sources that this wrath quickly transitions from psychological pressure and yelling into the actual biological weaponization of the members' bodies.
It's just horrifying.
It is. The documentation here details absolute horrors. We aren't just talking about tough practices. We are talking about the regulation of basic human biology.
Yeah, let's get into the specifics.
Okay, at one core, a survivor was brutally berated by staff simply for taking a bathroom break during an active asthma attack.
I couldn't breathe.
They couldn't breathe, and they were punished for seeking relief. At another core, the staff outright refused to let a member leave the rehearsal block to use the restroom, pushing them so far that they were forced to urinate on themselves while standing on the field.
That is the ultimate degradation.
Wait, stop. I just want to pause on that for a second because I need to process that.
It's a lot to process.
That is a young person.
Yep.
Someone in a position of ultimate trust, an educator, a staff member, forced a human being to soil themselves in front of their peers rather than let them step out of a drill formation.
It breaks every ethical code imaginable.
How does a parent not immediately drive to the field and call the police? I really want to know.
Because the parent likely isn't there. Remember the closed ecosystem. It ensures no outside observers.
Oh, right. The milieu control?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And if a parent is present, they have often been conditioned by the environment, too. They have been told, this is what it takes to be a champion. Don't interfere with the process.
It is fundamentally evil.
It really is.
And it gets worse. In 2005, at a core called Teal Sound, this physical abuse manifested as the staff intentionally denying members water breaks for hours in the blinding heat.
As a form of collective punishment.
Right. They also forced the entire core out of their sleeping bags in the middle of the night to march on a track, combining sleep deprivation with physical exertion.
We have to call this what it is. This is the literal regulation of biological functions.
Yeah.
When a brass instructor or a visual caption head dictates when you are allowed to hydrate, when you are allowed to sleep, or when you are allowed to relieve your bladder, they have assumed total ownership of your physical vessel.
You are no longer an autonomous person.
No, you are an asset they control. And this total physical ownership is then reinforced through deeply disturbing hazing and degradation rituals.
Which the community overwhelmingly protects under the guise of tradition, of course.
Naturally.
Yeah. Let's talk about the hazing, because the details in this report are just staggering.
It gets very dark from here.
It does. Francis recounts their own rookie initiation during their time at a corps called the Caballeros. Now, remember, you listening, this is a youth and young adult activity. It's supposed to be an educational arts program.
Supposed to be.
But new members were forced to strip completely naked on a moving tour bus and run the length of the aisle while being physically spanked by veteran members.
The humiliation is the point. It destroys the ego and binds you to the group through shared trauma.
Exactly. Then you have the widespread practice of what they call rookie talent nights.
Which is not what it sounds like.
Not at all. This isn't singing a funny song. Members were pressured by veterans to read aloud something called the bung,
Yeah.
which is described in the sources as a highly explicit quasi-rape fantasy story.
Just unbelievable.
And in other documented instances, adult staff members or older veterans performed explicit sexual acts or urinated in front of minors as a quote-unquote joke.
And what happened if you didn't participate?
Right. If you, as a rookie, refused to participate, if you showed disgust, you were mocked, ostracized, and hit with endless physical punishments on the field the next day for disobeying your veterans.
What's absolutely morbidly striking here is a specific concept mentioned in the sources: compliance training.
Oh, yeah. Think about how sinister that phrase is. Compliance training.
It's awful. Instructors would walk around 15-year-old members who were standing completely still at attention on the field.
Kids. They were kids.
Right. And the adults would lean in and intentionally whisper highly erotic, inappropriate comments into these teenagers' ears for 15 minutes at a time.
And the stated pedagogical goal of this exercise, like the official reason they did this, was to test their flinch response.
I have no words.
If you're listening to this and feeling sick to your stomach, you should be, because the gap between the shiny, polished musical product you see on the football field and the reality these kids are surviving is staggering.
It really is two completely different worlds.
Sup, Cult Hoppers? Are you a fan of all things dramatic? You love analyzing the politics behind movies, music, TV, video games, and the occasional book? Then you'll love our sister podcast, Marxists at the Movies. It's leftist nostalgia for the people. Think Das Kapital, but for good burger. New episodes drop every other Saturday on Patreon with a wide release every month. You can find out more at our website, cinemarchmedia.com. Marxists at the Movies, what the script doesn't tell you.
Think about the mechanics of what is happening here. When biological needs are completely shattered.
Yeah.
When physical boundaries are treated as a joke. When a 15-year-old child is explicitly, actively trained by an adult authority figure not to flinch when erotic things are whispered to them, what are you actually doing?
You are creating the perfect, impenetrable camouflage for sexual predator.
Precisely. You are institutionalizing the grooming process.
And grooming is not just a predator buying a child a gift or keeping a secret. In this environment, the institution has done the predator's job for them.
Right, because you are systematically overriding a child's natural self-preservation instincts.
If a teenager is taught by the organization that suppressing their physical discomfort is the ultimate sign of loyalty and strength, they fundamentally lose the psychological tools required to recognize and report sexual abuse.
Which brings us to the darkest reality of this expose, because all of this theoretical control, all of this unfreezing and boundary breaking inevitably leads to exactly what you would expect.
It leads to systemic abuse.
Yes. This isn't just a few bad apples slipping through the cracks. It is a harrowing, heavily documented history of systemic sexual violence perpetrated by staff and older members against minors and young adults.
And these predators thrive perfectly within this closed hierarchical ecosystem.
They really do. Let's look at the documented accounts provided in the source material, because you, the listeners, need to hear the reality of what has been hidden behind the wall of brass and the pristine drill formations.
The specific accounts we have are devastating. I want to highlight the report of an 11-year-old survivor.
11.
11. Think about what an 11-year-old looks like. During spring training, this child was chased into a locker room by a fellow member of the Corps, put in a physical chokehold, and inappropriately touched.
An 11-year-old?
And when this 11-year-old somehow mustered the immense bravery to report this assault to their caption head, the adult in charge, what was the consequence?
It makes me furious just thinking about it.
Me too. What did the caption head do?
The caption head made the abuser run a lap.
Run a lap. That was the extent of the justice.
Unbelievable.
And what was the consequence for the victim? The survivor was subsequently targeted for retaliation by the group. They were locked in a closet by staff and older members as a prank.
A prank.
Right.
Yeah.
They were only discovered when a parent volunteer happened to walk by
Huh.
and heard this 11-year-old child screaming from inside the closet.
It is unfathomable. It's a total inversion of protection.
It truly is.
And we see it again with the 14-year-old member documented in the sources.
The bus incident.
Right. So they are on their first summer tour. They fall asleep on the very first bus ride of the season. They wake up in the dark to find their 17-year-old seat partner's hand down their shorts.
Horrifying.
So this 14-year-old goes to the drum major and a staff member. And notice this, they don't even demand an investigation or justice.
Because the grooming has already taught them not to ask for that.
Exactly. They just ask the staff for permission to change seats so they can sleep safely without being assaulted.
And the response from the adults?
The staff brushes off the complaint entirely and outright refuses to let the victim change seats because it would, quote-unquote, disrupt the bus seating chart.
Wow.
So the 14-year-old victim was forced to sleep on the hard floor of the moving bus for their own safety.
To protect the seating chart. That just shows you where their priorities are.
Right.
And this complicity extends to the absolute highest levels of instructional leadership. Look at the case of the former member who reported that their main horn instructor, a man in his 60s, suddenly lay on top of them while they were resting on a gym floor, tickling and aggressively groping them.
Ah, sickening.
When the young survivor managed to push this man off and reported the incident directly to the Corps director, the director didn't call the police.
Of course not.
No, he utilized textbook, classic gaslighting.
Yeah.
He blamed the victim. He told the survivor that their conservative religious upbringing was making them too sensitive to normal physical affection.
Are you kidding me?
No. And he reasoned that because the victim successfully pushed the man off, quote, nothing actually happened.
The mental gymnastics required by an adult to protect a predator in that scenario are just sickening.
It's entirely about protecting the organization.
And it happens behind the scenes with the staff as well. It's not just members being victimized.
Right, there's that other case.
Yeah. The sources detail a situation where a staff coordinator learned that one of the core designers was gay. The coordinator lured this designer into a classroom during an open house under the guise of conducting core business.
And then?
Once inside, the coordinator used their immense power over the designer's employment and livelihood to coerce them into providing manual stimulation. The survivor complied strictly out of a survival-based need to keep their job in the industry.
That is coercion, plain and simple. We must also look at the specific, highly documented cases that have rocked the entire marching community online, where physical evidence was undeniable.
Right, because some of these stories did get out.
They did. Take the case of Lionel Jerome. This was a very well-known, highly respected timpanist who marched for major world-class organizations. I'm talking RCC, Carolina Crown, and the Blue Devils.
The big names.
The biggest. A brave survivor came forward publicly on Facebook and Reddit. She stated that Giron was arrested and charged, detailing horrific realities.
Like what?
DNA evidence, photographs he explicitly took while sexually abusing her unconscious body, documentation of cuts and bruises.
And when you read the Reddit threads included in our sources, which are vital because they show the community reacting in real time,
Yeah, what do they say?
you see a collective sense of despair. You see other marching members commenting things like, the American justice system is pay to win, because he allegedly managed to buy his way out of facing the full weight of the charges.
So the community knows.
The community knows exactly what is happening, and they feel entirely powerless to stop it.
Then there is the undeniable, documented case of instructor Austin Melcher. Melcher had a legal conviction for secretly filming a woman while she changed clothes.
Wait, a legal conviction?
Yes. This wasn't a rumor on a message board. This was a legal conviction for a sex crime. And yet, he was subsequently hired by Roman Blensky, the longtime director of the Pioneer Drum Corps, to work around youth.
I want to talk directly to you, the listener, again. Put yourself in the shoes of a parent for just 10 seconds. Imagine you are a mother or a father.
It's a terrifying thought.
How do you drive your kid to a suburban high school parking lot, hand over a check for literally thousands of dollars, and leave them in this environment? How does this happen?
The prestige.
Yes, the answer is the prestige. The prestige of the uniform, the awe-inspiring wall of sound from the brass line, the wholesome, all-American public-facing image. It completely blinds the public and these parents to the danger.
It's the perfect cover.
It is. You think you're dropping your kid off at the Juilliard of Marching Band? You think you are giving them the educational opportunity of a lifetime? but you're actually dropping them into a closed ecosystem where the adults have ultimate unchecked power and a proven track record of protecting abusers.
And this is precisely what we mean when we use the term institutional grooming.
Right, we mentioned that earlier.
The grooming isn't just the individual predator operating in the shadows. The entire institution is fundamentally structured to normalize and protect abuse.
It's baked into the system. Yes. Survivors are explicitly taught by the culture that enduring harassment, enduring extreme physical pain, and even enduring sexual violence is just a rite of passage. It is a sacrifice you make for the sake of the collective.
Wow.
When you are taught for 12 hours a day to ignore your own bodily autonomy for the good of the drill formation, when you are screamed at that complaining about pain makes you weak and hurts the Corps' competitive score, you lose the ability to defend yourself.
Because the institution has already done the predator's job by entirely disarming the victim's boundaries.
Exactly.
So that leads us to the most inevitable, glaring question of this entire expose.
Where are the adults?
Yes! If all of this is happening, if 11-year-olds are being choked in locker rooms, if 15-year-olds are being whispered to on the field, if instructors with criminal records are roaming the gym floors where kids are sleeping, where are the adults?
It's a fair question.
Why isn't the governing body, Drum Corps International, stepping in and stopping it?
The tragic, infuriating answer is that the survival of the institution and the protection of the DCI brand is consistently, historically prioritized over the safety of the victims.
Prioritizing the brand over kids.
Always. The sources document a massive systemic failure at both the macro level of Drum Corps International and the micro level of individual independent corps administrators.
It's failing on every level.
It really is. The investigative series run by the Philadelphia Inquirer, aptly named the Broken Silence Investigations, uncovered what they politely termed an unusual tolerance for past sexual misdeeds within the activity.
Unusual tolerance. I mean, that is the understatement of the century. It is complicity.
It is. Let's look at the actual facts of how DCI operates. Drum Corps International is the governing body of a national youth activity involving thousands of minors and young adults.
Thousands.
And yet DCI did not even require criminal background checks for staff until 2017.
2017. Think about that. Little League Baseball requires background checks. The Boy Scouts require them. Public schools require them.
But this organization, sending kids on cross-country sleeping tours, didn't mandate checking if their staff were convicted felons until 2017.
That is just gross negligence.
And even today, right now, there are still no firm national guidelines from DCI preventing the hiring of people with criminal records. It is largely left up to the individual independent corps to decide what to do.
Which inevitably leads to catastrophic localized failures because there is no oversight.
Exactly. Let's look at the Raiders Drum Corps.
Oh, yeah, the Lawrence Markiewicz situation.
Right. They hired a man named Lawrence Markiewicz as a brass consultant. This was a man with a well-known, widely discussed history of abusive behavior within the New Jersey marching band circuit.
Right. And when you read the Reddit threads in our sources, you see the community's absolute outrage.
Because everyone knew.
Everyone knew his history. The Whisper Network had warned everyone, yet the organization's leadership chose to hire him anyway. They only fired him when the public pressure on social media became absolutely insurmountable.
Or take Pioneer. We already mentioned that they hired Austin Melcher, a convicted voyeur.
Oh.
But it goes so much deeper than one bad hire.
How deep?
The Inquirer expose and subsequent forum posts by whistleblowers reveal the Pioneer actually kept a known pedophile on its board of directors, and even honored him as a, quote, volunteer of the year for literally decades.
For decades. I'm so angry for these kids.
And to understand how the system protects itself, we have to look at a highly documented recent failure. I want to spend some time dissecting the Spirit of Atlanta case from 2021.
Right, because this wasn't the dark ages of the 1980s. This was just a few years ago.
Well, after DCI supposedly implemented its new safety guidelines.
Exactly.
So in 2021, a member of Spirit of Atlanta reported a sexual assault. Now, we need to understand the legal framework here. The staff team of this corps had designated mandatory reporters on it.
Which means they're illegally obligated to report abuse.
Yes. By the law of the state of Alabama where this occurred, any person with reasonable cause to suspect the abuse of a minor must report it immediately to law enforcement or child protective services. It is not a suggestion. It is a legal mandate.
And what did the Spirit of Atlanta staff do with that legal mandate? They completely failed to follow it.
Total failure.
They took absolutely no action while the assault and harassment were actively happening on the tour. In fact, they waited an astonishing 96 days to contact the police regarding the assault.
96 days.
96 days of silence while the victim had to endure the aftermath.
And look at the consequences of that silence, or rather, the total lack of consequences. The member who led the intense hazing and harassment on the color guard bus, the ringleader of the rookie talent night abuse, was allowed to leave Spirit of Atlanta and move on to march with the Blue Devils.
Which is arguably the most prestigious, highly decorated corps in the world.
Exactly. They were completely unpenalized. And what consequences did the Spirit of Atlanta organization face from DCI and its executive director, Dan Atchison?
Let me guess. A slap on the wrist.
They faced little consequence beyond a vaguely defined probationary period.
It's sickening. The whistleblower in the Spirit of Atlanta case literally had to start a change.org petition just to beg the governing organization to implement basic, fundamental child protective measures.
Begging for the bare minimum.
The whistleblower explicitly noted that without the pressure of a public petition, Spirit of Atlanta and DCI would have just carried on business as usual, as if nothing had ever happened.
Because the hostility toward anyone trying to protect these kids is deeply systemic. It is an autoimmune response by the organization to attack anyone who points out a flaw.
Yes. Look at the Crossman incident detailed in the report.
That one really highlights how broken the reporting system is.
It really does. So Edward Michael Francis, the creator of this entire expose, attempted to utilize DCI's official whistleblower channels. They found a TikTok account belonging to a current Boston Crusaders color guard member. This account was posting overtly highly sexual content. The age of the member was unclear, which obviously raises a massive safeguarding and child protection red flag for the activity.
Huge red flag.
So, Francis does the right thing. They send the link to the DCI ethics email. Then they politely send a message to a current admin at the Crossman Drum Corps about the content, simply to flag it and say, hey, you might want to look into this.
And how did the administration respond to a safeguarding concern?
Well, does the admin say, oh my gosh, thank you so much for bringing this to our attention. We will look into this immediately to make sure a minor is safe? No.
Of course not.
The admin instantly blocks Francis on the platform. They shut down the communication entirely. It's like a massive corporation trying to hide a toxic chemical spill.
That's exactly what it's like.
But the spill here isn't chemicals leaching into groundwater. It's predatory behavior against children. And instead of cleaning it up, instead of putting on hazmat suits and fixing the leak, the corporate PR department just tells the poison victims they need to get over it.
Or they just flat out silence, block, and ban anyone who points a finger at the glowing green sludge.
That corporate analogy is highly accurate, especially when we start looking at the power dynamics and the financial structures at play.
Oh, the financials are a huge part of this.
If we want to understand why the silence is so deafening, why the adults look the other way, we have to follow the money.
We do. We have financial data from 2023 and 2024 showing immense, staggering economic disparities within DCI. Let's look at the members first. The youth who are enduring the 12-hour rehearsal days, the blistering heat, the physical breakdown, and the abuse.
What are they getting out of it financially?
Well, they are paying massive tuition fees to be there. Depending on the corps, a member pays anywhere from $3,000 to $20,000 per season for the privilege of participating in this closed ecosystem.
Wait, I need to emphasize that. They are paying to be the product?
Yes.
The organization does not exist without the literal blood, sweat, and tears of these kids on the field, and the kids are the ones funding it.
Exactly. They are unpaid, actively paying labor. It is a highly exploitative model. Now let's look at the other side of the ledger.
Let's hear it.
While the kids are paying 20 grand to sleep on a gym floor and be denied water, DCI executives are pulling in incredible salaries. The tax data shows that average executive compensation hovers around $237,000.
That's a lot.
With the highest reported compensation packages hitting up to $950,000.
Nearly $1 million. Are you serious?
Yes. There is a massive, highly lucrative financial machine built entirely on the backs of compliant, exhausted, financially drained youth.
And this economic reality brings us to the ultimate final cult control tactic used to protect that money machine.
It brings us back to what Robert J. Lifton called the dispensing of existence.
We touched on this earlier, but what does the dispensing of existence actually look like in the real-world, day-to-day operation of a drum corps trying to protect its bottom line?
It looks like swift, brutal retaliation and total erasure.
So silencing people.
More than silencing, erasing them. When whistleblowers come forward, when a kid finds the courage to report an assault, when a member complains to staff about being denied water during an asthma attack, when a fan points out that a convicted predator is on the visual staff, they are not treated as heroes trying to save the activity.
What are they treated as?
They are treated as existential threats to the organization's survival. They are publicly shamed. They are called weak for not being able to hack it. They are blacklisted from the activity entirely.
The sources outline this perfectly. One survivor talked about finally quitting mid-season because the abuse was too much. And what did the Corps director do?
Tell us.
The director ordered the rest of the Corps members, the victims' friends, not to speak to them ever again. The whistleblower is surgically excised from the group. They are treated as if they no longer exist.
It is the ultimate punishment for a social creature. Total excommunication.
Yeah.
By erasing the whistleblower, the organization effectively erases the problem.
Right. Out of sight, out of mind.
The abuse is hidden, the whistleblowers are silenced, and the profit machine and the relentless pursuit of competitive glory can continue entirely uninterrupted.
It is the absolute calculated erasure of the victim to protect the brand. And that heavy realization brings us to the end of this incredibly dense, dark, but absolutely necessary expose.
It was heavy, but people need to know.
I want to take a moment and talk directly to you, the listener, right now. Remember the consumer warning we issued at the start of this show?
Yes, this is so important.
If you have a child currently involved in the marching arts, if you are an alumni who donates money to these organizations, or if you are just a fan who buys tickets to the big summer finals to support this activity, you have a moral obligation to look past the pristine uniforms.
You really do.
You have to look past the perfect musical intonation and the incredible sweeping drill design on the field. You have to realize that you are handing youth over to a closed, high-control ecosystem that historically, systemically, and demonstrably protects the organization over the individual every single time.
The only way to dismantle these architectures of control is through unyielding knowledge and transparency. The darkness relies on silence.
It thrives in it.
And I want to add, if anything we've discussed today resonates with your own lived experiences, if you are listening to this and you recognize these patterns of milieu control, of conditional humanity, or the dispensing of existence in your own time in the marching arts or any other high-demand group, please know that there is structural support available for you.
You are not alone.
No, you're not. Organizations like the ICSA, the International Cultic Studies Association, provide vital research and support groups for survivors. There's also an incredible organization called People Leave Cults.
Oh, they do great work.
They do. They provide coaching, resources, and a tangible roadmap for transitioning out of high-demand groups and reclaiming your autonomous life. You do not have to carry the shame that these totalist systems maliciously placed upon you.
Absolutely. If you take nothing else away from this report, please hear this. You are not alone, and your humanity is not and never has been conditional.
As we close this expose, I want to leave you with one final question to critically examine as you look at the broader landscape of elite youth activities.
Let's hear it.
When an organization relies entirely on the unpaid, physically punishing labor of youth who are actually paying thousands of dollars for the supposed privilege of being there, to sustain the massive six-figure salaries of its executives. At what point does the pursuit of excellence stop being an educational activity and simply become an institutionalized racket designed to extract both money and compliance from the vulnerable?
An incredibly powerful question, and one the marching community has to answer. Thank you for joining us on CultFroggy.
Thanks for listening.
Stay safe, stay aware, and remember, the release valve should never be welded shut. And now back to Edward for the wrap-up.
You know, folks, building a revolution takes a village.
Right, and we've got a free 1-week Patreon offer just for you at the new Cinemarch Media Information Club.
For $7 a month, you get full access to either CultFroggy or Marxists at the Movies.
Or for $12, you get both shows.
Every single tier includes a free 1-week trial with no commitment and surprise cameos from Myron the Revolutionary Cat and CultFroggy.
2 content streams plus 2 adorable mascots for the price of 1? What a bargain!
Head over to patreon.com/Cinemarch Media and join the Cinemarch Media Information Club today.
Welcome back, folks. So how good are those AI voices? I'll be honest with you, sometimes I listen back to these deep dives and I'm like, what's my deal? Why do I sound more like Lieutenant Commander Data than the real-life Lieutenant Commander Data equivalent? We'll never know. But on to more pressing matters. Myron the Revolutionary Cat has listened to this one 3 times, and they are pleased. The executive producer has signed off, and we're greenlit. And believe you me, like every cat, they make you work for it. CultFroggy is slowly earning their respect, even if they occasionally get the side-eye for croaking too loud. But you all know the drill. Let's take it out our way. So, what did we learn today? We learned that a 14-inch feather plume attached to your head does not, in fact, grant you immunity from the laws of physics. That when an organization insists a massive, blistering stadium parking lot is a sanctuary of collective expression, you are about to do a whole lot of free manual labor. We learned that sometimes a revolution looks less like storming the gates and more like 100 people trying to clean a wool uniform with a single bottle of Febreze. And finally, we learned that the ultimate tool of audio terrorism isn't a charismatic leader's manifesto. It's a relentless, high-decibel electronic chirp known to survivors everywhere as Dr. Beat. But the deeper takeaway? When an institution uses the language of family to demand absolute aesthetic perfection, it's always worth looking at who really owns the copyright to your sweat. And before we go, a nod to Myron the Cat. Cinemarch Media would be nothing without your light, your drive, and the dead mice you leave at our bedroom door. We know CultFroggy isn't exactly your favorite yet, but we think she'll win you over. We hope you've enjoyed this bonus episode of CultFroggy on the Drum and Bugle Corps activity. If you want more of our regular human-driven content, you know where to find us. Patreon.com/Cinemarch Media and cinemarchmedia.com/shop. Also, follow us on TikTok, YouTube, Spotify, and anywhere else you get your podcasts. And remember, when the stadium lights dim and the buses roll out, your rhythm belongs to you and no one else. This is CultFroggy.
Thank you for listening to CultFroggy.
CultFroggy, jumping through the lies, peeling back the layers, opening your eyes. From the preacher's pulpit to the boardroom floor, cults are everywhere, can't ignore them no more.
Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Copyright 2026, Cinemarch Media.